करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। शोक निवृत्ति and bhaya nivritti, the removal of shoka and bhaya through the understanding that Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. That Brahman is myself alone. What is Satyam? We saw that existence which is free of any kind of limitations. That is the final recourse of all is. There is only one presence, and everything else derives from this presence alone, and it is a conscious presence, a presence that is all knowledge, a knowledge that is not divided into knower known, and that knowledge is without a mind really, because the mind actually makes one addicted to the status of being the knower, which is why one does not gain this knowledge very quickly, because one is trying to categorize Brahman into a certain, some familiar form that we know. But that is why it means beyond the mind. It's not that it is beyond the mind in that sense, it's beyond all categories. That's why Ishvara doesn't have a mind, no antakarna. Mind means, you have to say never mind, that's all. Mind means it's a constrictor, because it's already, the knowledge is as though divided. Alpagnya, that's why the jiva becomes alpagnya. Jiva again is, we'll see what that is. Jiva means the individual endowed, as it were, with a body, mind, sense complex. Not trapped in, as though trapped in. So this is the jiva. And so here, we have to be very careful about understanding this. So this conscious presence, which is all knowledge, without needing a mind to express that knowledge. This is very important. So the conscious presence, which is limitless, which is indivisible, impartite, there is nothing like it, there is nothing unlike it, there is nothing other than this, there is nothing, in addition to this. There is no part B, part C, sequel. Sometimes there is a movie which is wonderful and then there is always a sequel which is horrible. Yeah. So the sequel to Brahman, Brahman 2 is not there. Thankfully. Ekameva advitiyam. This is what is jnana. And knowing this as the truth of oneself, there is ananda, which is really ananta. But in terms of the human pursuit, it is called ananda. So, then the next question, let me ask the question before you ask it. Because ask it you will. Then the question is, what is the difference between the day-to-day ananda, the truncated ananda that you say I experience through various things, such as from ice cream happiness, marriage happiness, children happiness, house happiness, friends happiness, job happiness, research happiness, creativity happiness, painting happiness, movie happiness, mall happiness. What is the difference between that and this ananda that you are talking about? Really there is no difference, correct? The only difference is that ananda alone upholds all these small anandas. That presence, which happens to be limitless, which is ananda, its nature is ananda, expresses itself through mediums starting with ice cream, etc. Ityadi. So ice cream anande brahmananda. So when you are experiencing ice cream, you are experiencing brahmananda alone. But let's say this is what is called Vishayananda, ice cream, etc. And sometimes money, people don't really, people just like to sit and count money sometimes, yeah. Next life teller. Yeah, that's a bank teller. These people just like the smell of bank notes and they just keep wanting to count it. I know people like this. Next Janma, yeah, teller. Lots of money, keep on counting and get sick of it in 1 month. So this is called Vishaya. Vishayananda is not separate, not outside the ken of this Brahmananda that we are talking about. Because in fact that is the only Ananda which lends its being to the various Anandas that are there in the life. Vishayanandas, and some people like just to look at gold, so gold Ananda, and bank Ananda, movie Ananda, mall Ananda, children Ananda. And then there is a little more aesthetic preference sometimes. People like to read books. People like to think, do research, do Sudoku Ananda, all this. This comes under Vidyananda. First was what? Vishayananda. Vishayananda, in every Vishayananda, is not outside the ken of Brahmananda. In fact, all there is Brahmananda, which is morphing and expressing in a particular avatara called Vishayananda. Thanks to that movie of those blue faces called Avatar. That's all I know. I have not seen it. Okay, yeah. I just remember blue faces called Avatar. Now I don't have to ever translate the word Avatar. That is one good thing this movie has done for me. Yeah. I don't have to translate or explain it. So this is Ananda in the form of various avatars. So just like we have that one Bhagavan coming as Narasimha, Rama, Krishna, Balarama, all these, various Buddha, etc. That same Ananda is morphing into various avatars. One time it is in the Vesha, it has donned the guise of Vishayananda, Ananda attributed to or discovered while in contact with objects, Vishayananda. Then there is Vidyananda, Ananda or joy that is encountered when in contact with some kind of creative enterprises, Sudoku onwards, the brain challenge, brain teasers, research. And then there is Yogananda, asana, pranayama, standing on the head, meditation, all these spiritual activities, So this Yogananda is also not outside the ken of Brahmananda. Brahmananda alone morphs as Yogananda. And this is what Panchadashikara says in the last quintad of the book. The last 5 chapters are devoted to various forms of Ananda, which is really one Ananda alone. It's not that there are several Anandas. Will the real Ananda please stand up? No. It's all the same. It's all the same. It's morphed into various, various avatars. You know why? Because one is making a mistake of transference because of one's own ignorance. You're transferring the Ananda onto the object. Which Ananda? The Ananda that is centered on the I is transferred to the object. And then what happens as a result? Then you call it Vishayananda. One naming ceremony has taken place. Then the Ananda is transferred to the Sudoku, and then whenever you see the numbers, you feel very happy. And you say, I have solved it in record time. Then you feel sad because the same number you have used twice. You discover later. So, it is a transference, not unlike, there are 2 examples that are given in the teachings, in the Shastra, a traditional example. The Panchadashikara, Swami Vidyaranya gives one example of the camel in the desert. What does the camel do? It eats some, what will it eat? The giraffe and all the other cows, etc., living in tropical climates, they will eat bushes, grasses, and, trees, leaves, correct? Camel, poor thing, what can it eat? What is there in the desert? Cactus, exactly. So cactus it will eat. And it is equipped to eat cactus. Bhagavan has given it a rough tongue and a rough mouth to be able to ingest a few needles without any problems. But still, certain cacti, when it eats, the whole mouth is filled with blood. And the camel does a transference. What is the transference the camel does? The camel attributes the ananda of this cactus bush and says the cactus is very juicy. Yeah. Where is the juice? Belonging to the camel, not to the cactus. Then another example that we have already seen in other visits of mine here is the dog and the bone. Dog finds a dry piece of bone, sits down under a tree to enjoy this, and the sharp edges of the bone, same thing. They scrape the gums of the dog, causing it to bleed. Then what does the dog say? I better go to the dentist. No, that's not what the dog says. What does the dog say? This is a very juicy bone. The juice belongs to the dog, not to the bone. And so from these two examples, this juice, this is in fact described as juice. Raso vaisaha. This rasa is belonging to I, not to the object in which I am in contact. Then comes a very important question. Is the contact necessary? Is the contact a necessary and a sufficient condition for the expression of this Brahmananda? Otherwise this Brahmananda is not known at all. What is the answer to that? In the beginning stages, yes. In the beginning stages of the pursuit, yes. Because no other way, how are you going to understand? It is for these small happinesses one lives, And that small happiness is really that thing alone. So in the finite only, we start practicing looking at the infinite. And how to do that we will see shortly. In the finite, we start cognizing the infinite. And this is what is the 15th chapter of the Panchadashi we studied. This is its purport. That through the Ananda of the Vishaya alone, we can understand Brahmananda, because Brahmananda is not some special Ananda waiting to manifest itself. In fact, it is manifest all the time. But it is recognized in the beginning stages through Vishaya, Vidya, Yoga, all these various avatars. You seem to need an avatara to have that faith. It's just like when people will say, when are you coming? Oh Krishna, when are you coming? This is what people ask. And sometimes people don't believe Krishna has come in so many ways. Like that fellow who drowned in the flood. Why did he drown? Waiting for Krishna. Yeah. Krishna sent helicopter, he didn't recognize it as Krishna. Krishna sent boat, he didn't recognize it as Krishna. Krishna sent the king's own vehicle to come out of this flood, he didn't recognize it as Krishna. What happened? Glub, 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 they were his last words. And then because of the punya and bhakti, he went to Vaikuntha, really mad at Krishna. How come you didn't come? Idiot, how come you didn't see me come in so many forms? This is exactly how it is with Ananda also. So the manifestation is not, what is latent alone can be manifest, correct? You cannot manifest Ananda out of a hat. It has to be there and it is manifested, and since Ananda is Ananta and this Ananta is uncreated, so it is not something that is made up at the moment and conjured up to manifest from nowhere. It is the nature of the Atma which, when it comes into contact with so many things, can manifest into a certain mental condition. And this was one of the online questions that was asked. But then why should it manifest into a mental condition? How else are we going to recognize it otherwise? If it's a dental condition, are you going to recognize it? This is dental Ananda, this is mental Ananda. No? It has to, because the mind is the place where this Ananda is cognized, so it has to communicate itself and manifest itself in a way, in a form that is recognizable to me. But of course, I have the privilege, because of my own ajnanam, to attribute the Ananda to the object, which is a mistake. And in fact, this is for, this is high level Vedanta 301. What is the Vedanta 301? You cannot even say the Ananda is attributed to the subject. Neither subject nor object. That's what it is. So therefore, these various morphed Anandas derive their being, their sustenance and their origin only in that one Ananda alone, which is free of all names and forms. And so I said, we use these small Anandas which are finite because they belong to the not I. They are attributed to the not I. They manifest when the subject is in contact with the object which is finite. They manifest in finite conditions. And because of that, we have to learn, I said, to look for the infinite, even in finite situations. And in fact, we started with negating this particular tenet earlier. Adhruveshu dhruvam na prarthayante dhiraha. The person of, discrimination does not look for the permanent in temporary situations and temporary things. We negated that. But here we are not bringing it through the back door, we are reinterpreting it. We are not looking, our purport, our tatparya, our commitment is not to look at the temporary, is to throw away the temporary and keep looking at that which is permanent. How to do that? So first we look at the mental condition. Oh, there is some wonderful feeling happening. I feel I'm in heaven. Why? Because of one spoonful of ice cream. I'm in ice cream heaven. And then what? Then there are, so many physical changes in the body. There are mental changes in the mind. And suddenly one is not angry anymore. One becomes extremely accommodative and compassionate. Why? Because your desire is being fulfilled in the moment. And so usually one identifies with these changes, and these changes are always temporary, mind you, because a mental condition is always temporary. Vritti. Physical condition is also temporary. Suddenly I feel relaxed. It's a vritti. The body is relaxed. I'm not in the ninja mode as Pujya Swamiji talks about. Ninja means offensive and defensive. Always. So the body is relaxed, the mind is free. I feel accommodative. All this, instead of attaching to those feelings, I observe the feelings. I observe the feelings. And I focus on that observer rather than that which is causing this happiness. Because in every feeling of happiness, there are two things. One is the variable and the other is invariable. So you take ice cream, you take a nice outing, you take something like this, even this retreat, which is mentally stimulating and therefore makes one happy. There is something which is variable. What is variable? The classes come to an end. If they don't come to an end, I go to sleep. So in either way, they come to an end. Right? Sleep also is a nice form of ananda. Then sleep comes to an end. Then everything comes to an end. Then the tea break comes to an end. Dinner break comes to an end. Retreat also comes to an end. This is what is variable. Correct? But in and through the one who is cognizing the variable, there is an invariable that is hidden, that which never changes. That which is always the same. What is that? Huh? I am there. The one who cognizes the beginning of the class and laments the end of the class is beginningless and endless. Ananta, Ananda. So I focus on that which is invariable in every cognition. Pratibodha viditam matam. Bodham bodham pratividitam matam means in every cognition there is the object and the subject. The subject happens to be invariable. The object is variable. And the variable you let go of and enjoy the presence of the invariable in and through all the variable things. Padma patram ivambhasa. Like even the lotus leaf resting on a sludgy pond without any of the sludge affecting the leaf, because the leaf has small hairs, microscopic hairs that reject anything that you throw on it. So even if you take some mud and sling it on the lotus or the leaf of the lotus, what happens? Drops away. So that's how the samsara is compared to this panka. Not pankha, no, that's different. Panka means this sludge. And in this sludge of samsara, the lotus is always a symbol of purity. So in this sludge of samsara alone, the lotus atma is cognized. You cannot say, I want to take the atma far away from samsara to be able to cognize it. Where are you going to go? No, I'll go somewhere far away. Where are you going to go? You can't go to any place where Brahman is not. So Brahman is in this form of, and we are going to come to that. So in this form of many and varied expressions, alone that which is the truth of all the expressions are cognized. And really speaking, this nanatvam, ya iha nana pashyati, mrityoho mrityum apnoti, we saw in the morning, goes from death to death, the one who sees many. Where is many? Where is the Jagat? The Jagat is really in between the temple bones. Which temple? Hindu temple? No, this temple here, right here. In between these two temples is the Jagat. Jagataha upalabdhi sthanam. So the place where the Jagat is cognized is where? The mind, correct? That is where the Jagat is cognized. And so the same place, and the Jagat is variable. So Jagataha adhishthanasya upalabdhisthanam eva. Same thing. So the adhishthana, the truth of the Jagat is what? Brahman. Any question I ask, you answer Brahman, okay? The truth of the Jagat is what? Brahman. So where is Brahman cognized? In that same place. Brahman is cognized by Brahman. By oneself. In the same place where the Jagat is cognized. There is only one difference. Jagat variable, cognizer invariable. And as long as I stick to the invariable, then these goings and comings are not going to be there. It's a very, very nice thing. And neither is there any way I will confuse the condition of the mind to be Ananda. I won't do that. The condition of the mind here is really not Ananda. Because the mind is just so fleeting that to think about that as a basis of my happiness or the basis of my feeling of expansiveness is not a good litmus test. Because the mind keeps changing. And the more you feed it, the more it's going to keep changing. That's why in the first portion of the Taittiriya Upanishad, in the discussion of what is called the Anandamaya Kosha, Anandamaya, the word Mayat, Vikare, in the sense of modification of Ananda. A Vikara of Ananda, Vikara means a modified version, like I said, it's morphed into a mental condition, as it were. Because of my misidentification with the mind and the object that gave the mind a certain change, a contact high, and that is where you will find the gradations. And here the beautiful analogy is given of a bird. And this is a Brahman bird, really. And the bird has certain body parts. What does it have? Head. It has a tail. Of course, if it has a head, it should have a tail. Then it has left wing, right wing. Then it has a body. Correct? And this is described beautifully. Tasya priyameva shiraha modo dakshinah pakshah pramoda uttarah pakshah ananda atma brahma puchham pratishtha tadapyesha shloko bhavati. Very interesting. So here this bird has a head. What is the head? It is, let us call it Priya. What is Priya? A gradation of Ananda. Ishtavastunaha darshanam Priya. When you see something that you love in the distance, when the 28 come out, not 28? You say he, wonderful. There is this Ishtavastu darshanam, the sight of something that I desire. That is called Priya, one gradation, a lowly level of Ananda here. A lowly vikara, not level, a lowly modification. Then it is coming towards me, it's not going towards the other person. So the Ishtavastunaha Prapti, or the prospect of Prapti, the prospect of the gain of that which is desirable, is called Moda. Little more teeth, and here the body also inclines to receive that wonderful offering which is coming towards me. Then Ishtavastunaha Prapti is called Pramoda. Finally I gain it. It is mine, I have become one with it. That is called Pramoda. These are the various variations of the mind, mental variations with regard to the object of desire. And you see, this is variable because it is connected to the object, not to the subject. These are mental conditions of who? Brahma Puchham Pratishtha, the tail of the bird. And the tail is very significant because the body part called the tail, especially in the anatomy of the bird, makes it stable, even in flight. If you cut off the tail, it will fall, it will falter. So the tail gives it a stability. So what is the truth of Priya, Moda, Pramoda, left wing, right wing and head, symbolizing these various mental conditions? What is the truth? Brahma Puchham Pratishtha. Brahman is the one that is morphed into the mental condition called Priya. Brahman is the one that is morphed into the mental condition called Moda, Pramoda, etc. Ananda Atma, the Ananda of Brahman is the body of the bird. And if I let go of Brahman, if I forget about Brahman and focus on the mental conditions, then this is a recipe for sorrow and bhaya. How to cook up bhaya? Focus on Priya, Moda, Pramoda, and immediately you will feel like you are losing it. You are losing them. The prospect of loss gives sorrow and fear. But if I focus on the tail here, and that's the moral of this tale, and what is the moral? That I am focusing on the invariable, that which is the adhisthana, the basis, for lack of a better term, the basis of all these Priya, Moda, these mental variations, then I am safe. This is the secret to finding to focusing on and never letting go of the infinite. Even though one is surrounded by the finite, one sees through the finiteness and looks at the infinite. This is a meditation. You can do that walking, sitting, You can look at a tree. And then you can say, okay, here is the tree, here are the leaves, the fruits, flowers, all that is finite. What is infinite here? The one who is observing the tree, infinite. Atma of the tree, infinite. My Atma and Atma of the tree, one and the same, one I, morphed as the tree, the so-called object, morphed into I, the observer, the so-called subject. So the subject-object are statuses superimposed upon the Brahman, which are dispensable. And this is how, without needing to remove it, I can mentally transcend it. And this is what needs to be done again and again. And this is how one understands oneself as Ananda, without needing recourse to the object, without needing the prop of the object. One understands the truth of the subject, because the truth of the subject and the object is the same, one and the same. That which is the truth of the subject and the object is neither subject nor object, but without which neither the subject nor object can be what they are. So I look for the invariable in every cognition, because in every cognition there is the thinker, object of thought, and the thinking process. Thinking process variable, object of thought variable, thinker also the status variable only in relation to the thought. That which is invariable is that consciousness which brings the thinker to light, which brings the thought to light, which brings the process of thinking to light. That which doesn't need to think. Think about it. This is what the whole thing is. And to understand this further and deeper, because still the heart is not convinced. We still haven't answered the question, how come the neighbor is happier than me? What is it that the neighbor has achieved that I have to achieve? How come that person he's smiling all the time? That person is also thinking the same about you. That's what it is. So therefore, the Upanishad sets up this to distinguish between the variable and the invariable. The Upanishad sets up this table of graded Ananda, which is really fun. We are going to look at that now. Saisha Anandasya Mimamsa Bhavati. This here is presented an analysis of the gradations of Ananda, says the Upanishad. So for that we should somehow arrive at one unit of the best possible measure of human Ananda. So for that there is a setup. Yuvasyat. We think of a young person, man. Don't throw things at me. Why man? I'm translating what the Upanishad says. Yeah. Why man? Because there is strength. Yeah. That is the way. Young man, yuvasyat. Oh, young always goes with the word restless, correct? Young and restless. No, sadhu yuva. This is a very sadhu. This is a very nice yuva. Oh, something must be wrong. Maybe IQ is not yeah, IQ little dull, developmental delay, to put it politely. These days we have to be very careful. There are very nice ways. I like it. This country is very careful about labeling. So yuva syat, developmental delay api syat. No. Ashishta, very well educated, high IQ. What? This is sounding too good to be true. Must be wishy-washy, Must be a nerd. Dradishta, does what he says what he does. Keeps, his mind is in his thought, action and deed are in alignment. What is this? This is too good to be true. It's an ideal measure of human happiness. So of course it will be too good to be true. Sadhu yuva. Ashishta. Adhyayakah. Very cultured also. Must be a nerd. No social skills. Always in front of the computer. Pair of thick glasses all the time. Doing something. No. Very pleasant. Talks to the elders. How very cultured. Brought up well. Full of samskaras. Nice samskaras. Okay, must be fuss. If you press the, thing, it goes right through, It becomes flat. You press any muscle. No, balishta. does weights, when secretly presses, bench presses when no one is looking, goes to the gym. This Yuva. Now he's sounding like ideal son-in-law material. Yeah. This mama wants him for his daughter. Mama says, I think we shouldn't even look at the horoscope. We should just immediately fix the marriage. Mommy is a practical lady. Mommy says, we have to find out the finances. I'm not going to give my daughter to some kadka fellow who doesn't, have even 2 pennies to rub together. So what if he has all the samskaras in the world? I don't care. Tasya iyam prithvi vittasya purna syat. So all the wealth on this world, in this earth, let us say, belongs to this fellow. Now mommy is happy. Okay, you can go ahead with this alliance. So we are talking of mineral wealth, tree wealth, everything. Riches, oil wealth, land, cows, gold, diamonds, everything. We are talking of so much wealth. Everything, let us say, belongs to this person only. What more can a person want? You can't want anything because you have everything. This, let us say, sa eko manasha ananda. Let us say this is the ultimate thing possible in this earth. To buy up everything, to be young, to be strong, to be able to digest a few stones every day, doesn't matter what you eat, nothing happens. To have a strong digestive system, to have a strong mind, to have a fresh, demeanor, to be pleasant, to be well educated, and to be rich. What more can you want? Nothing. Saeko manasha anandaha. This is one unit of human happiness. And then you multiply that by 100. This itself is so far-fetched. Okay? This is boggling the mind. Now you have to boggle the mind a little more. And what do? You multiply this one measure of human ananda into 100. Then what do you arrive at by this exercise? You come to one measure of the ananda of lower rung celestials. Not even the higher rung celestials. These are celestials who bring chai to the big devas. These are the chai walas, celestial chai walas. Chaya, they go. That is what it is. Sa eko manushya gandharvanam anandah. But that ananda, see, already there is a measure, correct? So then this, it's like this NASA picture. Somebody sent me this PowerPoint presentation. And first you see this, some area, one tree, leaf, everything you see. Then it is 10 times, 100 times, then you see the whole earth. Then 100 times magnified, and then you see the whole solar system. The earth is a pixel, the tree is gone. The tree is gone, not even in the picture. The earth itself is a pixel. There is a little arrow to say, this should have been earth here. They can put that arrow anywhere, it doesn't matter. Then it is further magnified. You are going into the outer realms of the galaxy. The sun is a pixel. Why? Because वो sun के पास एक और बड़ा sun है. Its name is Betelgeuse. Yeah. This Betelgeuse, in front of Betelgeuse, the sun is just nothing. Sun is like a beetle. Yeah. That's why it is called Betelgeuse. And then, then you get to the level of galaxy. Betelgeuse chala gaya. It's gone. There is no Betelgeuse anymore. Then there is some Andromeda. What is Andromeda? It's the galaxy next door, our neighboring galaxy, where we can go shake hands. In fact, that might not be necessary, I am told, because it is advancing at an alarming pace. And when two galaxies merge, it's not a happy event if there is life anywhere in the vicinity. Yeah, because what happens is that the black holes of the two merge, and then these wings, they become one. Eki bhavanti. Yeah. And then somebody put the hypothetical question in this paper on physics, astrophysics. Where should we sit to enjoy this cosmic show? Kidhar baithna chahiye, you know? First of all, everything is inference. I love this. This is so much fun. Everything is inference. You don't even know, for example, where the solar system is located on the Milky Way. Nobody knows. It's all inference. You will be lucky if you are right. If they are right, they'll be lucky. It's just guesstimate, guesswork. So based on that, if you are somewhere too close to the black hole, supposing when the two galaxies are having their merging act, then what will happen? The person who is the observer will be sucked in, correct? Yeah. And if you're too much at the edge, then those wings are also will be thrown off somewhere into space. So then they concluded you should be somewhere in the middle, and hopefully you will be in the middle so you can watch them merging. So that at that level you see Andromeda. Then Andromeda, just becomes nothing. Then some other blue dwarf, yellow dwarf, all these various half-dead stars, dying stars, and stars which have some life in them, and stars with, so many planets, and, the planets, so many things. Now we are on to the different level. Then you start seeing patterns. Something looks like the eye of Bhagavan. You must have seen that. Looks like a big eye. And of course, then somebody who wrote this must have been some kind of it was a Christian commentary. He is watching you. You don't say that. You say the watcher is Bhagavan. And then you come back again. Then you say, okay, then you come back to galaxies, then you come back to Andromeda, then the black hole, then the Milky Way, then Betelgeuse, then your sun, and then the solar system, and then the earth, and then this particular state in the earth, and then this particular country, and this particular area, and the tree and the leaf. You see, this is how it is. So this is exactly like this what we are embarking on. We are magnifying the Ananda, and so when you magnify it by 100 times, what happens to our sadhu yuva son-in-law material? No. So the people who are searching for son-in-law will say, yeah, chai wala, okay, but still celestial chai wala. And 100 times happier than our fellow back somewhere where we have left him behind. Correct? But, and this is a very important but, one more fellow is sitting there, and more about him/her during the weekday evening classes. This is how we keep it going. More about this entity in the weekday continuing evening classes starting when? Wednesday, Tuesday, starting Tuesday evening. And who is this person? Just a quiet person sitting under a tree. What does the person have? The person doesn't have anything, I told you. Because everything where is this person? On earth or in the Jaiwala? No, on earth only. Yeah. Not in the Jaiwala realm of the lower rung celestials, but on earth only. And so, what does this person own? Nothing. Why? Because the sadhu yuva owns everything. We already, determined that. This yuva who owns all the resources of the earth, who owns everything, the intelligence, good looks, bala, everything is his. Strength, enterprising nature, everything belongs to him. So what belongs to this entity sitting under a tree? Nothing. Nothing belongs to this entity. And still somehow this entity manages to enjoy that fellow who has everything, that level of happiness without the headache of paying property taxes. And also manages to enjoy the Manushya Gandharvas, Chaiwala's happiness, the tea bringers to the higher celestials' happiness as well, Yugapat, simultaneously. Why? Shrotriya, because the person has attended Vedanta retreats and gained this teaching. Yeah. has labored to understand this during the Labor Day retreat. That is how the person enjoys that freedom, because the person has recognized that which is invariable in all these happinesses and is identifying with the invariable. The person is happy, not owning anything, not needing anything. Shrotriyasya, sixth case, belonging to the one who is well educated in this knowledge. Not just well educated in terms of degrees and pedigrees, that we don't need. This is well educated in the only teaching that matters, which is the truth of oneself. That which is invariable is Ananda, not the variable. So very well assimilated knowledge. Akamahatasya cha. Akamahata, not akamena hataha. That is problematic. Yeah. Kamena na hataha. Hataha means hijacked, killed. Killed by desire. Kamahataha. Akamahataha, not killed by desire. You cannot, resolve the compound by saying killed by non-desire. Even though when the process of giving up desire feels like a death, it's not killed by non-desire. It's not hijacked by desire. That person who has discovered the invariable as oneself enjoys these two levels effortlessly. Further, are these the only two levels? We wish, because there are further levels. Look at your notes. Look at the text. What is the next level? Te shatam manushya gandharvanam anandah sa eko deva gandharvanam anandah. Correct? So from manushya gandharva, gandharva means some kind of performing celestials. Performing celestials, they sing for the other devas. Then there is Deva Gandharva who sing for themselves. Yeah, they have all these yakshas, kinnaras, devas, gandharvas. These are Deva Gandharvas. So Manushya Gandharvas, they bring tea and they are apprentices to the Deva Gandharvas. So 100 units of Manushya Gandharvas Ananda, which is what? 10,000 units of this first fellow's Ananda. Correct? Now we can't even count anymore because we keep having to add 0, 0, 0, 0, 2, 2 zeros each time. You multiply by 100. 4, 4 zeros to the one previous, to the one previous, to the one previous. So now the 100 units of this lower rung celestials is equal to 1 unit of the higher rung celestials. And also that measure of Ananda belongs to who? Shrotriyasya chakamahatasya. The fellow who doesn't own anything sitting under the tree. Yeah. Reproduced with swaras, translated with swaras. Sitting under a tree, not wanting anything, knowing the invariable as oneself, one enjoys the devas level of Deva Gandharva's level of Ananda without being a Deva Gandharva. And then, what we do, what we know best, we multiply 1 unit of Deva Gandharva's Ananda into 100. Then what do you get? Pitrinam Chiraloka Ananda. Correct? Yeah. This is Pitraloka. Pitraloka means the world of ancestors. What kind of ancestors? Not serial killer ancestors. Dharmic ancestors who have led a good life. You have to say all this. Yeah. Jack the Ripper and people like that will not be there. You have to be clear. All these things have to be talked about. Yeah. Otherwise you think every ancestor goes there. No. Only the revered ancestors, whose blessings we seek to lead the life the ones who have made a mark. Chiraloka, meaning they are enjoying a great level of happiness, they are enjoying the blessings. They are in a place to bless others along their own path. They have made a mark. There may be political leaders who have given up their lives like Gandhi ji and all. They will be in places like Pitraloka. Political leaders, religious leaders, whatever it is. So these kinds of people who have set an example of their lives. And so 100 units of Deva Gandharva's Ananda is 1 unit of Pitralokas. The people in the ancestral realms enjoying that. Also one other person is enjoying that, sitting under the tree, owning nothing. Who is that? Shrotriyasya chakamah tasya. You can respond with that sentence, phrase. Then, not having anything better to do, we multiply this Pitranam Chiraloka Lokanam Ananda into 100. Then you have some other Ajana Devas you have. Who are these Ajana Devas? Some kind of higher rung celestials who are helping the operation of the various laws in the universe. Yeah. Then that you multiply again by 100. Ajana Janam Devanam Anandaha, you multiply by 100. Eko Karma Devanam Anandaha. And these are the first Manushya Gandharva was the footman, like the one who gopher, chaiwala. This Karma Deva is the butler, okay? Yeah. Now we are really talking. High level, he's got a very nice pressed uniform and he takes pride in the job of bringing all these dishes under this big covering and uncovers these celestial dishes and does Naivedya to the gods, to the other devas. Ye karmana devana piyanti. How do you become a god's butler, devata's butler? How do you become? Karmana devana piyanti. Meaning, those who have done so much good karmas in their life, they become a permanent butler until the yuga falls away to the devas. Any takers? Quickly raise your hand. No, what would you rather be? Shrotriyasya chakamah tasya. Sitting under the tree, not striving for anything, just being contented and at the same time enjoying the butler Ananda without needing to press your uniform and press everything and be pressed into service. Correct? Sitting happily, you are enjoying that level of Ananda, no problem. Grand, great, excellent, fantastic. Then you multiply the Karma Devas, I think there are 32 in number, all these, there are certain numbers. Because as you go up, the numbers of these people enjoying the Ananda's lessen. Karma, there are only 32 butler level, positions. Yeah, finite, to show that it is finite. Then after that what comes? If you multiply that by 100, what's the next one? Eko Deva Nama. Finally we have reached. Deva here, very few. Indra, Varuna, Agni, Vayu, these are the Devas, the ones, Yama, etc. These are the ones who are responsible for the operation of the various laws in the universe. They are also very few in number. And they enjoy this happiness, correct? Then after that what? You multiply that by 100. No. Don't before that. One other person is enjoying that happiness. Who is that? Shrotriyasya chakamah tasya. Then you multiply this by 100. Eko Indrasya Nanda. Now the king of all these devatas. Of course his level of happiness should be more, correct? More servants, more food, more things to eat, more things to enjoy, more resources. And then the Indra's Ananda is multiplied by 100. Before that, one other person is enjoying Indra's Ananda also. Who is that? Shrotriyasya chakamah tasya. The loinclothed person whose desires don't come in the way of this understanding. Beautiful. Then Indra has a, guru. Who is that? Brihaspati. Then Brihaspati, of course, is going to have more Ananda than Indra for the simple reason that he can order Indra around and that gives him a lot of pleasure, correct? Yeah. Hey, sit down. You don't even know Atma Jnana. Yeah. Indra cannot order Brihaspati, so that curtails the Ananda. Brihaspati is Jupiter, the teacher of the Bhagavan, the teacher of all the gods. Gods means here, Devatas. Then Brihaspati has a boss, Prajapati. Yeah. And who is this Prajapati? Prajapati is the Brahmaji. Yeah. And before we multiply and we graduate to Prajapati's Ananda, One more person is enjoying that high level Ananda of being able to order Indra around. Hey Indra, you know, who is that? Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya, the one who is well, learned in Vedanta Shastra, one who has understood Vedanta, and then the one who is free of desires. And Adi Shankara interprets this slightly differently. We'll see that tomorrow. But for now, just enjoy this, okay? Yeah. Then Eko Brahmana Ananda. This is, finally you get to one measure of Brahman's Ananda. It's just by this time it has boggled the mind, The galaxies have all become just one big soup. And then who does that enjoy? Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya. Then beyond that there is nothing to go, correct? Yeah. There is nothing to measure because we are talking of Brahman, which is immeasurable. Nothing to multiply, nothing to divide. In fact, that all these anandas are sustained by Brahman alone. They arise from Brahman, they resolve into Brahman, they are non-separate from Brahman. The one who knows that, sitting under a tree simply without doing any khatpat, without trying to run around, gaining anything, gains everything. This is what the text says. Adi Shankara's interpretation is slightly different, and we will see that tomorrow. Plus the implications of this text in terms of our own pursuit and our own lives, some practical ways to, to keep reciting the refrain, to live the refrain, Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya, will be given in the 2 classes tomorrow. So more we will see. In the morning, what time is the meditation? At 7 a.m. EST, and then? Oh, here it is, here I have. I will just talk about this. Meditation at 7 a.m.